Everyone loves a good comeback story, right? But that's tough for a video game in this day and age. Bad press spreads like wildfire, turning off potential players who get all that negative word-of-mouth information before they even download it. Games like No Man's Sky and Final Fantasy XIV managed to turn disastrous launches into polished experiences that eventually won players over. But what about Pokemon Masters? I'll preface this video by telling you that I am part of that Pokemon generation. I remember seeing commercials and reading Nintendo Power articles in the 90s before Red and Blue even came out in North America. I kept up with every episode of the anime until the Johto arc wrapped up. Trading cards, action figures, you name it, I wanted it. Pokemon will always hold a special place in my heart, so I had really high expectations for Pokemon Masters, especially after the success of Pokemon Go. A little bit of backstory about how this game came to be. The mobile gacha battler from DeNA and the Pokemon Company was announced in May of 2019 with a very short but exciting trailer. Your favorite characters from all regions coming together in one place, bringing their ace Pokemon along for the ride. Fans were hyped, and they couldn't stop talking about it on social media. The slow trickle of information began. DeNA began teasing sync pairs and how battling would work, but one thing we really wanted was a release date. All we knew at that point was summer 2019. Months went on without any word of when fans would get their hands on Pokemon Masters. It wasn't until August that we learned of the specific date through an App Store listing, August 29th. Things started out strong. The game earned $26 million in its first week. 10 million downloads shortly followed. That's a lot of people playing one game. Story missions and no stamina system like most mobile games usually have meant that players could dive in as deep as they wanted. But the excitement faded fast. Sure, they were releasing new trainers and Pokemon, but the main story was pretty short. You could finish it in one afternoon. The game also had some side missions and a few co-op online battles, but the rewards themselves weren't enough to motivate players to grind. People tried to provide feedback to DeNA about the game's problems, but it fell on deaf ears. Players felt ignored, many saying it seemed like the company was just phoning it in. Many dropped the game, hoping that there would be a reason to bring them back someday. The producers of Pokemon Masters knew the game had problems. Yu Sasaki issued a public apology in October, which is really rare from a game developer. Here's a quote from that statement. "We're disappointed we did not meet expectations of our community, and for this, we sincerely apologize. It's our intention that this does not happen again." Hearing these opinions from fellow trainers has deepened our sense of commitment to deliver a game we can all be proud of. Both the development and operations teams are fully committed to improving this game and creating a memorable experience for all fans to enjoy. Sasaki added that the development team was growing and promised to be more transparent with trainers going forward. A promise to make the game bigger and better. But have they delivered? The developers have given us a few looks at their roadmap going into 2020. I want to examine what was promised and if they've implemented those changes into Pokemon Masters as of early January. Our first roadmap was for November and December. Sasaki promised adjustments for rewards in November, more gems for story chapters, events, and login bonuses. These were all implemented, so first promise kept. December was a difficulty update. Very hard and super hard missions would get their rewards adjusted. The level cap for sync pairs was also going to be raised to 120. Again, this all happened. Promise kept. And they finally teased the first legendary Pokemon that would be unlockable through an event. That turned out to be Mewtwo, a fan favorite. All of these promises were kept, but some players were not happy with how difficult and grindy the Mewtwo event was, requiring a lot of time to complete the missions. In December, we got a second look at the developer's roadmap for the new year. First, new bingo missions with pretty good rewards that update every week were promised. They were added in a recent update. More legendary events were coming. Now we have Solgaleo. The difference here is a promise to make the legendary rewards much easier to obtain, less time grinding, and more time enjoying what you unlocked. This promise was also kept, with the requirements to unlock Solgaleo being much less strenuous than Mewtwo. We were also promised that some fan favorites were coming soon. Cynthia with her Garchomp, Lance and his Dragonite, and even more hints of Red and his Charizard. The first two are available in-game now, granted you have to unlock the sync pair by a random roll like most gacha games, and many are speculating that Red will come for the game's 6-month anniversary since that was recently teased, but nothing is confirmed yet. I'd consider this promise kept as well. 2 out of 3 is pretty good. Everything else the developers have teased in that news update hasn't come out yet. I'll include a link in the description so you can read more for yourself, but the bottom line is that DeNA outlined future updates for us twice since that apology letter in October, and in my opinion, they've been delivering ever since. It's fair to say their commitment to improving Pokemon Masters is genuine. I was one of those players who played Pokemon Masters for about 2 weeks after its release and ultimately got bored. I deleted the app and in the process lost my account because I didn't link it to a Nintendo account. But all the recent buzz about changes and players returning had me curious, so I decided to start fresh and give Pokemon Masters a second chance. Here's why I think you should do the same. Starting with a new account doesn't make you feel like you're far behind like many gachas do. The beginner and intermediate bingo boxes give a lot of gems, and they're easy to complete. Plus the New Year login rewards give plenty of gems too, so you'll have a lot to use to pull for sync pairs. I got pretty lucky and pulled Lance and Dragonite on my very first pull. His and Cynthia's banners are still available. There's also a 5-star banner that can only be used with gems you've purchased with real money, not the free in-game rewards. That being said, the rates are pretty good, and you get a ticket that allows you to pick any 5-star sync pair you want from that banner. So if there's someone you'd really like to add to your roster, this is a good way to do it. The story missions have just about doubled in number since the game's release. That means more free sync pairs and rewards to collect. Most of the new additions also come with co-op missions that are more difficult, but of course offer better rewards. That includes Gear, which is a newer system that lets you beef up your teams of 3 with equipable items. These can also be upgraded, so that's something new to grind too. You also don't feel like you have to own all the best sync pairs to compete in the more difficult events. Dragonite is my all-time favorite Pokemon, so Lance has been my go-to guy since I returned to the game. Lucky for me, 2 of the best supporting pairs for Lance are free units that anyone can unlock. I'm talking about Snivy and Torchic. So even if you don't get Cynthia or Lance, there are plenty of Pokemon who can get the job done. The game also rewards you for going into events with type advantage, so there's an incentive for collectors to really invest in a wide array of Pokemon. I set out with this video to answer the question, is Pokemon Masters worth your time? There's no denying that the game had a rough launch that turned a lot of people off. And sure, some lost faith in anything Pokemon because of issues with Sword and Shield. I am not going to dive into that here today because that's not the point. What matters is the team behind Pokemon Masters have shown a real commitment to improving the game and making it something that fans will enjoy. And I can definitely see that in the work that they've done. In short, I'm back, and I think that you should give it another chance too. Test the waters in between your ranked matches in Teppen. You may just find the game you've been looking for.